Hey there, Jim.
Hey, Tim.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Excellent.
Great.
Nice background.
Yeah, I got that background specifically for this call.
Boy, I should have thought ahead. I could have something similar. Yours is much more exciting than my background.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining me here tonight. For those that will be viewing this in the future, this is Jim Montgomery, and he's not only a Torrance resident, he is a commissioner in the city of Torrance. And maybe, Jim, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and even a little bit about your work on the commission for the city.
Sure, we can certainly start there. Let's see. So moved to California from Michigan in '84. Lived throughout the South Bay during that time. Moved to Torrance in 2008 when my wife and I bought a house. And about 6 years ago, I got appointed to the Torrance Environmental Quality Energy Conservation Commission. And I've been on there, like I say, for 6 years. And for the last couple of years, I've actually been voted by my colleagues to be the chairperson, which was a great honor. So I really enjoy giving back to the city. And the environment and sustainability are issues that are very near and dear to my heart. So I really love being on that commission.
Yeah, well, thank you for your service to the community. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So what I wanted to talk to you about today is I understand that you were involved in a pretty fantastic project in your employment with JPL, and specifically just in the last week or so, the rocket launch to send your project up to Mars. Can you tell us a little bit about that, the name of it?
Yeah, certainly. So the mission is the Mars 2020 Perseverance rover, a very apt name for our times. There was a seventh grader who basically won a competition with his essay and the name, and also Ingenuity, the first helicopter that's going to fly on Mars, is tagging along with Perseverance. So it's a JPL led mission under the auspices of NASA, and it's part of our Mars exploration program that goes all the way back to the Mariner missions back in the 60s. It's been a very long trajectory, a very long arc, but this is the latest installment in our missions to Mars.
Oh, okay. How did you get started in science and engineering to begin with?
So that quite literally goes back to me being a 5-year-old boy here in South Haven, Michigan, and watching Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin step foot on the moon. And it really just inspired me, much like that view behind you inspires me. The night sky, right? Just looking up at the sky, the Milky Way galaxy, and just wondering, what's out there. And when I saw Armstrong and Aldrin land on the moon, I wanted to be an astronaut. So basically, you do all the things to be an astronaut, right? You study science, math, engineering. I applied 6 times, got turned down 6 times.
Wow.
But in the course of applying, I got my doctorate. I was trying to check all the different boxes that would help increase my odds. And in getting my doctorate in 1999, opened the door to the job at JPL. And I couldn't be happier. To now, JPL broadly, we do 2 things. Our charter is the robotic exploration of the universe, and also Earth and climate science. And I'm in the robotic exploration of the universe side of the house. And so in 2000, I joined there, and it's been just a wonderful trajectory ever since. Starting out doing robotic technology development, R&D, and then in 2006, getting my first opportunity to work on a mission, the Mars Curiosity rover, which is still on Mars and operating to this day.
So you applied to be an astronaut 6 times.
I did, and I got.
You had never mentioned that before, but now I'm feeling like it's really appropriate that you are working on the Perseverance mission.
Yeah, right. And that's why I tell people I do a lot of public speaking, or I used to, right before the situation we're in now. But I would always tell people, follow your passion. I don't care if it's dance or cooking or being a technician, mechanic, it doesn't matter. Just follow your passion and good things will happen. And my passion was to be an astronaut. I got 6 rejection postcard saying, thank you, Dr. Montgomery, for your interest in the astronaut program. Try again next time. But long story short, by trying to be an astronaut, I got my job at JPL. And so that's, again, what I tell folks, just follow your passion, good things happen.
Do you have any idea what the odds of being selected as an astronaut are when you apply?
I think back when I applied, it was, I want to say it was in the many thousands of people. I think less than 10,000, more than 1,000. And I think they chose in that particular crop of candidates, it was like, a dozen or so. So, and this is a very rarefied error. You read the CVs of these people, and they're just phenomenally accomplished human beings. I don't feel bad that I was not selected.
I was just going to say that. I hope you don't. I hope you don't.
No. I couldn't be happier at JPL. It's a wonderful place. I mean, exploring the universe for a living is a pretty cool job.
Yeah. So what is your job title at JPL?
So my official job title, broadly speaking, is a pointing and control systems engineer. And so that's my job at JPL. But on the Perseverance mission, I'm the Lander Vision systems engineer. So it's a particular subsystem that's going to help Perseverance land safely on Mars in February. And so I've been working on that technology since 2004 with some colleagues of mine. So it's pretty exciting after 16 years to finally see something you're working on infused into a mission that's going to enable us to land safely in Jezero Crater in February.
And when you say you've been working on it, what does that entail? Is that just, are you doing calculations? Are you doing coding, simulations?
All of the above. So
Okay.
It's a very long trajectory. So at JPL, we have this thing called TRL levels, or TRLs, technology readiness levels, and it goes from 1 to 9. 1 is like just, pie in the sky, things like warp drive, and then level 9 is things like landed on Mars. It succeeded, and there's everything in between. And so you basically mature the idea from a basic, R&D kind of concept, doing things like I said, like analysis, simulation, modeling, could be breadboards and prototypes. We tested our system on a helicopter out in the desert, flying over Mars-like terrain to prove that it would work. And then once we were able to prove that that worked, we actually got accepted as a subsystem on the Mars 2020 mission. At that point, the fun begins, where you have to now build this system that was only flying on Earth. You have to design it to survive the rigors of space. So the vacuum of space, the temperatures of space, the temperature extremes, the vibration of a launch on a rocket, et cetera. And so you have to do all those things. And so there's software, there's hardware, there's electronics, there's all these things that go into it. And yeah, so we've been basically working on it for 16 years. And so it's, you have to be patient in this business.
I guess so. This project that you found yourself attached to, is this something that you chose or they chose you? How did that evolve?
So that's the really cool thing about the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. You really kind of roll your own career. So when I first went there, I got my job because my research in college, so I got my undergraduate degree at the University of Michigan in computer science, moved to California. I got a job with a company called Hughes Aircraft Company, which no longer exists. But while there, I was getting my master's. So I went to USC because they had a pretty strong robotics program. So I got a degree in computer science in my master's at USC, and then I got a doctorate in computer science and autonomous robotics. And basically at USC, we were in this flying robot competition. We actually won it. So we took this little RC model helicopter and turned it into a flying robot. This is back before you could buy a quadcopter out of the box. So we were wire wrapping computer boards. We were writing our little code, and we got this little helicopter to fly itself. So we won this competition, and then we got a DARPA contract. And during the field testing at this DARPA contract in Maryland, there were some people at JPL, and they saw our helicopter flying. And they wanted that helicopter as a test bed to test vision-based algorithms for landing on planetary bodies. And I said, well, that's great. You can have the helicopter, but you have to hire me too. It's a package deal. And that's kind of how I ended up at JPL with this little UAV. And so for 6-ish years, I was doing autonomous aerial vehicle research, flying helicopters, Titan aerobots. We flew a blimp out in the desert, an 11-meter long blimp that we could actually fly around Titan, or that was the idea. Developed those technologies. And then in doing that, it opened the door to being a field test lead for the landing radar for Curiosity. That's how I got my first foot in the door for a mission. And then you kind of get your name known at JPL and people start asking you things. And then so basically you get sort of tapped on the shoulder and say, hey, would you like to do this? Would you like to be the system engineer for the lander vision system? And I said, heck yeah, let's do it.
So you didn't have to apply 6 times?
I did not.
Okay.
Yes, that's true.
Great. Tell me a little bit about the goals of this mission. So we sent up this rocket with the payload and this helicopter that is groundbreaking. We've never done something like that on a celestial body before. What is all this equipment going to be doing up there?
So that's what's kind of really cool. The engineers would have to say, we are in the service of the scientists. The scientists have these big questions, trying to, they ask them, and we try to help them answer them. And so basically one of the big questions is, are we alone in the universe? Right? And so as long as humans have looked up in the sky, I think, we've been kind of wondering that. And so I'm going to test you actually, Tim. What are the 3 things that life as we know it depends upon?
Well, I would say water.
Yep, that's one. Ding,
that's
ding, ding.
One. Oxygen?
Actually not. Anaerobic bacteria.
Okay, yeah, that's oxygen. True. That's true. Yep. Going back to 10th grade biology here.
That's right, yeah.
At the moment, I can't think of the other 2.
They're a little tougher, yeah. So basically a source of energy.
Energy, okay.
A food source.
Sure.
Could be like photosynthesis, could be, eating plants, what have you. And the last one is organics. We are carbon-based life forms. So those are the 3 things that we know of, that if you have those 3 things together, life could arise. And so going back in the Mars program, all the way back to Viking, they had an astrobiology experiment to try and discover, was there evidence of life on Mars? And there was no way to really prove that with the primitiveness of the equipment we sent, and also just our lack of understanding. So the arc was, first of all, follow the water. And so that's what we did with the Phoenix rover, the Phoenix lander. Landed at one of the poles of Mars, had an arm scooped down into the soil, and voila, there was water ice. So check that box.
Mm-hmm.
And we already knew there was a source of energy on Mars. I mean, the sun's hitting it, so just like us, there's energy there. There's radioactivity, that's another source of energy. There's multiple things that life as we know it on Earth can eke out a living doing. And then finally, organics. And so that one we didn't answer till Curiosity. And what was cool about Curiosity is the Mars Science Laboratory, it took a science lab to Mars. And we drilled into the surface of Mars, and we were able to, in Yellowknife Bay at Gale Crater, prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that Mars was once habitable about 1 billion years ago. We know there was standing water there. We know there was running water there. We knew it had a neutral pH. There are organic compounds galore. So microbial life on us would have been quite happy on Mars 1 billion years ago. So, but that's not proof, right? So now the next thing is going from follow the water was follow the carbon, which we proved with Curiosity. And now it's like follow the biosignatures. And that is, can we find the evidence of what life would leave? So here on Earth, it's easy, right? You have multicellular life forms, picture like fish fossils, right? They get fossilized by the processes here on Earth. Well, on Mars, we don't expect that. We expect just single-celled organisms. So there's these things called stromatolites. Those are microbial mats. And those things actually, they're millions upon millions of microbial cells that get basically petrified or just preserved. So the short answer is we're looking for the stromatolite type thing on Mars or something like that. So if we found something that was a biosignature of life, we could say, hey, look, here is some pretty strong evidence that life was once inhabited. And the next question becomes, is it still habitable? Or is it still inhabited? Beneath the surface of Mars, we know there's liquid water. Could there be just, microbial life like crazy on Mars right now? And that's the question we're trying to answer. And so once you go from n equals 1, we know of only one place where life exists here. Now if n suddenly becomes 2, Mars and Earth, well now n is probably infinite. And wouldn't that be an exciting, I'm getting goosebumps actually thinking about it, because I think back to Copernicus, right? And Kepler's like, no, the sun's not, or so the earth is not the center of the universe. That was a paradigm shift. Now imagine if we could answer that question, say, no, life exists elsewhere in the universe. It's just not here on Earth. And to answer that question would be phenomenal.
Well, now we know why you're the scientist and I'm involved in the politics. And maybe we can just leave it that way, since I was only able to answer one of your three questions there.
Well, not three, yeah, 33%.
Yeah.
That's not so bad. It's better than zero. But actually, just to be clear, I'm not a scientist either. That stuff is way over my head. I'm an engineer, so I know how to do that type of stuff. But when it comes to science, and that's what's cool about us, right? We basically have a team of thousands of humans all across the planet working together to answer this question. It's a very international thing, which is, to me, is kind of cool about space exploration. It's an existence proof for what humans can do together, in teamwork to answer those questions. And we work with, every kind of flavor of human being you could imagine works at JPL or works on these missions. And so it's, it's kind of like that Star Trek vision, of the future, where all of humans working together in peaceful exploration of the universe, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, this is maybe where my politics will show here, but I say this quite often. I feel like, just like you watched people land on the moon, and that's what got you involved in this career here, that was a goal for the entire country. That was something that all Americans were able to unify behind. And I'm really trying to think the last time a president since Kennedy and his moon mission set an ambitious goal like that unified the entire country. And I really feel like that's one of the missing components right now, in the evolution of our country. Just something we're lacking a unifying goal to get everybody working together.
That's a very good point. And I think, back in those days, right, it really was the race to the moon to beat the Soviets. That was the motivating factor. And actually now China is actually getting a pretty aggressive space exploration program, which is great. I'm all for that. And also commercial space, SpaceX, right? We had the first commercial launch of NASA astronauts to the space station by SpaceX. So kudos to them, right? And so we're kind of getting there. So and actually I didn't finish answering your question. The goals of Mars 2020 are broadly three things. Number one is to search for habitability, biosignatures of Mars. Also to pave the way to return samples from Mars. As much as our robots are good at, answering questions on Mars, nothing like the laboratories here on Earth. So we want to bring the samples to Earth, just like we brought lunar samples from the moon with the Apollo missions, right? They were able to go ahead and answer questions we couldn't have done on the moon. And then finally, the last thing is to pave the way for human exploration. So we actually have a mission or a subsystem on the rover called MOXIE, and it's going to generate oxygen from the carbon dioxide atmosphere. And so that's going to pave the way for humans and, rocket fuel, breathable air, et cetera. And then the sample return mission, we're going to core samples of Mars and drop them on the surface for a Mars sample return mission in 2026. And that's international as well. I think, it's very expensive to do these missions. We do one Mars rover every decade roughly, and it costs a couple $2 billion. In the grand scheme of the federal budget, it's a very small amount, but still, it takes money. And we're very aware of that. So getting commercial space involved, getting international partners involved behind this grand unifying vision will help us move faster. We can move faster together. So yeah, I'm with you. And I think to me, it's also very inspiring. I remember when Curiosity landed on Mars, they estimated 2 billion people out of 7 billion people on the planet were watching. So that's a sizable fraction of the planet all pulling for Curiosity to land safely on Mars.
Yeah. That's great. What is your role in this project going forward? I mean, well, I guess back up just a little bit. The payload and the rocket, they're on the way to Mars right now. When are they expected to arrive? And what is your role in the project now and once the vehicle lands?
Well, those are all great questions. So as you mentioned, we launched on July 30th. It was just an amazing launch, on an Atlas V rocket, and they did a great job inserting us on our trajectory to Mars. So we're at what we call the cruise phase. So there's like the launch, cruise, approach, and enter, descent, and landing phase. And so now we've gone from the whole design, build, test, verify to operate it. So now we've turned the keys over to the operators, which I'm actually one of them. So I've actually handed the keys off to myself. So I'm actually, after designing and building the lander vision system, now we're operating it, and we're going to turn it on for the first time here near the end of August to make sure, that the computer, like at home, your computer boots up okay, right? You turn on the power, you hope to see that screen that says, I'm up, right? So we'll do that. We have a camera that takes pictures of Mars as we land. We want to make sure that that's working okay. We have a computer program we can run that basically is a BIST, built-in system test. So we can run this program to go ahead and prove that everything works okay as we cruise to Mars. And then when we land on Mars, that's completely out of our hands. It takes about 7 minutes from the time we hit the atmosphere to landing on the surface of Mars. So I would recommend you and all your listeners here to Google 7 minutes of terror. That's a tremendous video that is the 7 minutes that's quite terrifying, to going from supersonic speed to basically touching down safely on the surface of Mars, all in 7 minutes. And since the one-way light time to Earth from Mars is anywhere from 7 minutes to 15 minutes, depending on where we are oriented relative to each other, we can't help it. So I have to do it completely autonomously. So, we've done all the testing we could to give our kid the tools within which it can make its decisions that, when do I pop my parachute? When do I go ahead and let the heat shield come off? When do I go ahead and fire my rockets? That's all done autonomously. But we've tested that many times. And so, there can always be a bad day on Mars, but, we've done everything we can to help ensure the system can land safely. And also we built in a fault tolerance. If something goes wrong, they can say, oh, geez, this isn't working. Here's we can switch over to our backup computer, for example. So we'll land on the surface of Mars. At that point, I'll become part of the surface operations team, and I'll be able to be part of the team that operates the rover on Mars. And every day I'll get to see a new part of Mars, which is quite exciting.
And once you transition to that role, how long do you see that role lasting?
So there's too many fun things to do at JPL. It really is. I'm like a child. Every single day it's just fun, and there's too many fun things to do. I would love to work on the Earth and climate science part of JPL because we do so many important things there. I'd love to work operating the rover on Mars. Maybe be there the day if we do discover evidence of life on Mars. Would it be awesome to be part of that team that did that? But I mentioned the Mars sample return mission, and so our lander vision system basically has enabled us to land on places on Mars where you couldn't before. So imagine this: when we go to Mars, when we're entering the atmosphere, we know our position to within about 3 kilometers. So that's over a mile. It's actually a couple miles. With our system, as we're landing on Mars, for the folks that have hiked before with a topo map, and you can actually look at peaks, like I'm looking behind you, right? I could actually go ahead and look at those peaks, and I can draw lines from those peaks to where where they intersect on my topo map, and where they intersect, that's where I'm at. Same type of concept as we're landing on Mars. We have a map of Mars. We take images, and we map features in the camera images to the map. And by doing that math, we can localize ourselves to about 40 meters on the surface of Mars, like half a football field. And once we do that, we can then fly to the safe places on Mars. And so this will open up the door to like a human mission, right? Because we have to be very careful when we land humans on Mars, obviously. When we want to retrieve those samples, we want to fly to where the samples are at. So anyway, long story short, being the lander vision system engineer, there's multiple missions that want me to help them on their particular application of our technology. And so I'm going to be the graybeard on multiple missions.
Is this something that could take you up to retirement even?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I imagine they've set an expected lifetime for this mission, but as we know, many of these missions, if we look back, we've got 2 satellites approaching the heliosphere from the 1970s.
Right.
So I imagine that's a possibility, but what are they thinking in terms of expected timeline here?
So there's the warranty. So NASA gives us our level 1 requirements. And so some of those requirements are: you shall last 1 Mars year, which is roughly 2 Earth years. You will cache these many samples, you will do this, you'll do that. So yeah, so in terms of lifetime, it's one Mars year. So we land February 18th, so roughly of 2021, so roughly February 18th of 2023. But we engineers, we put a lot of margin into our systems, just like you when you drive your car, right? They basically, you know, they say don't inflate beyond 40 psi or whatever, right? But the tires can make it to, I don't know, 50, 60, 70, whatever. You know, there's margin there.
Don't
So the
try
same
this
thing.
at home.
Yeah, don't try this at home. Yeah,
Make
don't.
sure
Whoever's
you get the
listening,
disclaimer in there.
that's right. Yeah, don't go home right now and try to inflate your tires to 100 psi. I'm not advocating that. But anyway, long story short, our rover has all these tolerances or margins, and so typically they last longer, right? Like you said, I mean, the Voyagers, you know, they launched back in the 70s, you know, so it's what is that? That's 50. I have to do my math here. Yeah, 50, almost 50 years now they've been going, right? So, I mean, they've had issues and they're nowhere near as capable as they used to be, but they're still going. And the same thing with Curiosity. She landed on Mars August 5th of 2012. So we just hit the 8-year anniversary of Curiosity, you know, so 4 times the 2-year warranty.
Yeah. Well, let's hope that happens with this one as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's all very interesting stuff. I want to thank you for sharing your story, and got a lot to look forward to here, and maybe we can catch an update at some point in the future.
Yeah, if you'd like to, Tim, I really enjoyed this, you know, and I thank you for the opportunity. I just love sharing my joy of exploration of the universe. And if there's actually any, there is interesting thing, just contact me at Monty, MONTY, at jpl.nasa.gov. And so that's .jpl. So yeah, MONTY at jpl.nasa.gov. And I'd love to share my joy of exploration with you.
Okay. And I think we had a little internet issue here for a quick second. You cut out for a second, but we got your email address. But what were you saying about people contacting you?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, basically, you know, again, I love, you know, just as I was inspired by Armstrong and Aldrin, I hope the things that we at JPL and NASA do today inspire the next generation of youth to get involved in STEAM, you know, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. You know, it takes all those at JPL, not just the engineering side, but also the arts. You know, we have a lot of artists, you know, that basically will draw those pictures, you know, that people see. So yeah, if you have a dream of exploring the universe, you know, or just want to pick my brain about something, feel free to contact me. I love interacting with the public.
Okay, that's very generous of you. Thank you, and thank you so much for sharing your passion, and thank you for all your work on this project. It's really interesting, and I'll be Googling that 7 minutes of terror to get an idea of what you're about to go through in a few months here. And I certainly don't envy you in your position during those 7 months or 7 minutes.
It's pretty. Actually, I will say one thing, Tim. It's if I could bottle that sensation, I can't even begin to tell you, right? Because I mean, you're working for 6, 7 years on something, and it all comes down to 7 minutes. So yeah, there's apprehension. There's just but when you land on Mars and you know you're safe and you get that first image back and everyone's just like high-fiving and hugging and just it's like, you know, it's a tremendous feeling. So and I think February 18th of 2021, you know, we'll be going through that 7 minutes of terror again, but I'm cautiously optimistic that we'll have another rover on Mars, and just exploring the universe and peeling back the mysteries of Mars even further.
Very cool. Thanks again, Jim.
All right. Thank you, Tim. Take care.
All right, we'll see you. Bye.
See ya.